On April 10, 1912, a ship named RMS Titanic began its first journey. At the time, it was the largest and most luxurious ship in the world. It left Southampton, England, heading to New York, USA. People from all walks of life were on board. Rich businessmen, actors, and also poor families and individuals hoping for a better life in America. The ship was commanded by Captain Edward John Smith, a 62-year-old veteran. There was a lot of excitement around the Titanic. It was about 269 meters long and more than 53 meters tall, which made it the biggest ship of its time. The ship cost around $7.5 million to build then, which would be equal to about $400 million today. Inside, it was more luxurious than even a five-star hotel. It had fancy mirrors, wooden walls, 2 huge staircases, heated pools, Turkish and electric baths, a gym, squash court, 4 restaurants, 2 barbershops, and even a library. People believed the Titanic could never sink because of the new safety features it had. The ship's company, White Star Line, even said it was unsinkable publicly. Just 2 days after it left port, on April 12th, the Titanic received its first warnings about icebergs. The North Atlantic Ocean had many large chunks of ice floating around. These warnings were common, and ships often warned each other using radios. The Titanic did change its course twice, but kept moving at full. On April 14th, 7 more iceberg alerts were received, but they were ignored. The ship kept going at the speed off 40 kilometers per hour. That night, there was no moon, so visibility was poor. At 11:39 p.m., a crew member named Frederick Fleet, who was keeping watch from a high point on the ship called the Crow's Nest, saw a massive iceberg directly in front. He quickly rang the bell 3 times and called the bridge to alert the officers. First Officer William Murdoch gave the order to steer left, but it was too late. At 11:40 p.m., the Titanic's right side hit the iceberg. The iceberg was enormous, about the size of a football field and weighing around 1.5 million tons. The front side of the ship, called the bow, scraped against the ice for about 10 seconds. This caused holes in the hull, the outer body of the ship. Though Titanic had 2 safety layers at the bottom and 16 waterproof sections, the damage was on the side, which had only 1 layer. The iceberg hit 6 compartments, but the ship could only stay afloat if 4 or fewer were damaged. So, the unsinkable ship was now sinking. Around 12 a.m., Captain Smith ordered radio distress signals to be sent. The radio operator, Jack Phillips, kept sending messages, hoping a nearby ship would hear. At 12:20 a.m., the ship RMS Carpathia, about 107 kilometers away, received the signal. It immediately turned and started heading toward Titanic, but it would take over 3 hours to arrive. The crew fired flares into the sky, hoping someone nearby would notice. Meanwhile, lifeboats were lowered, with women and children given first priority. At first, many people didn't believe the ship would actually sink, so the first lifeboats left with lots of empty seats. One lifeboat that could hold 65 people only had 28 aboard. As more water entered, the ship tilted forward, and panic started. There were only 20 lifeboats on board, but there were over 2,200 on the ship. By 2:05 a.m., the last lifeboat was lowered. But 1,500 people were still stuck on the Titanic. By 1 a.m., the ship's front part had sunk underwater and the back rose into the air. People were now screaming, crying, and trying to find a place in the few lifeboats left. At 2:20 a.m., the Titanic disappeared under the sea. It took less than 3 hours for the unsinkable ship to go down. Most people either drowned or froze to death in the icy water, which was around -2 degrees Celsius. At that temperature, a person can die from hypothermia within minutes. The ship RMS Carpathia reached the site by 3:30 to 4 a.m., but it was too late. It could only rescue those already in lifeboats. Shockingly, there was another ship only 37 kilometers away, the SS Californian, which could have helped. It had warned Titanic earlier about ice, but turned off its radio at 11:15 p.m. Even when the crew saw Titanic's flares. Captain Stanley, Lord of the Californian, did nothing, thinking it was just rich passengers partying. After the disaster, many investigations were done. Captain Lord was blamed, but others were also responsible. Too few lifeboats were carried because the builders believed the Titanic wouldn't sink. No safety drill was done on the day of the crash because the captain thought it wasn't needed. When the order came to turn left, the helmsman turned right by mistake in panic. Captain Smith kept the ship at high speed, possibly under pressure from Joseph Bruce Ismay, a top officer in the company who wanted to break speed records. The sinking of Titanic led to big changes in how ships operate. In 1914, the International Ice Patrol was created to warn ships about icebergs. New rules were made under the Solace Treaty, including a rule that every passenger must have a lifeboat seat. For many decades, Titanic's remains were lost. Finally, in 1985, ocean expert Robert Ballard and his team found the ship 3.8 kilometers under the sea. The wreck was in two pieces, 600 meters apart. Now, the remains are slowly being eaten by bacteria. Scientists believe that by 2030, the wreck could be completely gone. Even after 110 years, people are still fascinated by the Titanic. In 2012, an Australian billionaire, Clive Palmer, announced plans to build a Titanic Tua full-scale replica of the original. He said it would sail the same route, but the project was delayed and has not been completed even by 2022. People also didn't seem interested, especially since the ship would lack modern comforts like Wi-Fi and TV. Like the video and subscribe to our channel for much more informative content, your gateway to the nexus of knowledge.